Am I the a-hole for letting my stepson, his girlfriend, and baby become homeless? My female 46 two stepsons, Eric 27 and Michael 30, live with me and their dad. But our relationship was superficial, since they kept reminding me that their mom was present in their lives and I was the outsider. They then moved away for college and rarely visited. My husband got sick with cancer and struggled for 2 years. Months before he passed away, I discovered that both Michael and Eric were slowly withdrawing money from our bank account. I didn't know they had access to it, but later found out they had access through my husband's financial information. I was livid because I needed the money for treatment and other expenses since I stopped working. I had a fight with both of them after they admitted they were moving money out of my husband's account before he died, so I won't get anything since the money was theirs. I threatened to sue, but Eric told me to buzz off because it's their money. I changed the old account immediately and moved what's left of that money to a new account. But the week my husband passed away, everything in the house was taken. I'm not exaggerating. They moved everything out and sold it. My husband didn't leave a will, and I was left with just our house since my name on the lease. I haven't seen Eric or Michael for 2 years. Till a few days ago in the morning I heard noise from the outside. I opened the door and saw Eric with his car stuffed with his bags and a young lady in the passenger seat and a baby in the back. I was surprised they asked why he was here and what he was doing. And he said, "I'm moving back in my father's house with my girlfriend and my son." I was stunned, and seeing him unloading his trunk set me off. I shouted, "This is my house now, and he's not allowed to set a foot in it after everything he and his brother did." He attempted to argue that he lost his job and was evicted and had nowhere to go. He also said he and his girlfriend would have lived in their car, but there is a baby that needs a home, and there's his grandfather's house. Plus, everything that happened was planned by Michael, not him. I said they took enough already and I owe them nothing, but he ignored me and kept getting his stuff out of the car. Then he tried to get inside, insisting this was his father's house. That's when I showed him my phone and yelled that I will call the cops on him for trespassing my property. He was shocked by what I said and started begging me to let them stay just for the baby who's now my grandson. But I said no and told him to get in his car and leave. But he stalled and kept complaining about becoming homeless when his father's house is available. His girlfriend involved herself, crying about potentially having their baby taken away from them for not finding proper living arrangements. I said this wasn't my problem, and Eric kept begging, then said I was being cruel and unfair by taking my anger out on an innocent baby with no home to live in. He left but had his dad's side of the family shaming me for letting Eric go homeless and demanding I let him come to his father's house, but I refused. To answer additional questions, 1. Yes, my name is on the lease and now it's officially my house. 2. My in-laws live hours away, and the reason they said they won't take Eric in is that they don't have to when his father's house is available. So they're behind Eric, encouraging him to take back what's his. 3. I don't know anything about their mother, but she's certainly not dead, otherwise I would have found out. Now for the top comments. He left but has his dad's side of the family shaming me for letting Eric go homeless. Those family members could have given him a home as well, but they didn't. You're not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. This guy is a criminal who already robbed you blind. Why on earth would you let him back in your life, much less your house? Honestly, find some family members you actually trust to come stay with you for a while, because this snake is not going to slink away that easily. Not the a-hole. They have already taken enough from you. If his dad's side of the family is so concerned, they can take him in. Protect yourself. Get the best locks you can afford installed. Make sure your windows are secure. Get Ring cameras for any entrance into your home. Install the app in your phone. They will record if anyone is prowling around. Take any proof of ownership that the house is legally yours, plus a few utility bills as proof you live there. Important papers like passport, birth certificate, social security card, pictures, and give them to a trusted friend. Pack a go bag with a couple of changes of clothes, some cash and an extra set of car/house keys, and keep it near the door. Call the police non-emergency line and give them a heads up. Names, descriptions, description of the car. If you have any proof of the family's harassment, show them. Ask if they can do extra patrols of your neighborhood. Alert your neighbors so that they'll call the police if they see any strangers in your street, strange cars, and frequent drive-bys. Tell them that you are not moving out and no one is moving in. If they see anyone loading or unloading their car into your home, they should call 911. It all sounds scary, but you are preparing for the worst possible scenario. You are now a freaking safety Boy Scout. You are prepared. Then live your best life. If things go down, don't panic. You have a plan. Grab your bag and go. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my spouse to forgive my mom and my sister? Plus update. I have been married to my wife for 8 years. The very first day my family met her, my mom turned her back on her and ignored her, and my sister came out asking if she was ever going to see the triplets again. My ex-girlfriend had kids from a previous relationship. I was so damn pissed and embarrassed, but my significant other handled it like a champ and acted like nothing. When we got home, she cried and was really disappointed. She had been looking forward to meeting everyone. I texted both my mom and sister and chastised them both for their rude behavior, and my mom's reason was because she really liked my ex and her kids. Same for my sister. I took my significant other to my mom's for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and my mom and sister were still standoffish. After we left, my significant other said she didn't want to go over anymore, and I promised her she wouldn't. I asked her to marry me a few months after, and we didn't invite any of my family to our ceremony. Not her choice. She said I was more than welcome to, but I didn't think my family deserved to be there. Then my mom found out and reached out and asked if we would like to have dinner. My significant other encouraged me to go, but she had no desire to. I went, and it ended up being a party at an Italian restaurant with all of my family. They were all asking for my wife, and it was so damn uncomfortable having to make an excuse. But I understood. My wife has stayed away but does help me buy gifts for everyone's birthdays and holidays and goes with me to visit my grandparents. Now, my sister's daughter was diagnosed with cancer this month. My wife has been incredibly helpful and has assisted in any way possible, and I was hoping this would lead to everyone forgetting the past. I asked my wife if she'd consider coming around to my mom's, and she refused. I told her I didn't understand why, that all this drama was 8 years ago and she was doing all this nice stuff for them right now. She said helping out is the right thing to do, but that it doesn't mean she has to be friends with them. I did raise my voice and told her that being stubborn helps no one, and she called me an a-hole for not understanding. So am I? Edit. Changed some details for privacy. Now for the top comments before the little update. You're the a-hole. Your wife is a saint for helping out and being kind when the situation obviously calls for it, but she doesn't have to forgive people who treated her like trash for years and years, and it's extremely unsupportive of you to keep asking her to. You are the biggest a-hole. Did your mother or sister ever bothered apologizing to your wife? Sounds like they continued their awful behavior toward her even after you called them out on it. I was wondering the same thing. I seen a mention of my mom and sister apologized and seemed sincere. They also try to reach out and include my wife, but I have sent messages /cards/gifts to her to re-apologize, but my wife still says no. Seems like mom and sister only told OP yeah sure, we're sorry about that. Let her know we are sorry. That isn't an apology to OP's wife. Yes, you are an a-hole. You promised her she didn't have to go back, so why are you trying to make her now? Man, all of y'all are really making me see things differently. I admit now I'm being selfish. With my niece being sick and my wife helping out, I thought maybe we could all just get along. I see now I messed up. Now for the little update. Thank you all for opening my eyes. I've never felt so attacked, but I'm grateful for it all. I have totally changed my way of thinking. My wife is amazing, and the last thing I want is to take her around people who don't have her best interests at heart. Unfortunately, it took advice from strangers for me to see. Nonetheless, I am thankful. I can't reply to everyone. I have a lot of making up to do. My wife has read so many comments and would like you all to know she's very thankful to see so much support. She says she's always felt guilty about staying away, but feels better about her decision now. At the end of the day, my wife deserves peace, and I will not force her to do anything she doesn't like. She's pretty gleeful right now. Lol. Thank you all. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my son the truth about his mom? Their mom, 44 female, and I, 44 male, broke up 9 years ago because I caught her cheating with my friend in our own home with our 4-month-old son, sleeping in the next room. The breakup was hard, especially for the kids, but as parents we did everything possible so that they can be happy. And we decided that we would never tell them the reason we broke up until they are adults. For them, we only broke up because it was the best. We always told them that we functioned better separately, and that way we could all be happy. But I got tired. I met someone a few years after our breakup, and now we are married and have a 21-month-old girl, and she's pregnant with our second. But my 2 oldest kids, 19 male, 18 male, refused to meet their sister. They don't even speak to my wife, 27 female, and never wanted to tell me why. They just hate her. And at first, when we started dating, it was kind of understandable. My wife is younger, and she was the first person I dated after breaking up with her mother. So I decided to give them a few months so they could adjust to the new situation. But those months turned into years, and they never really tried to get to know my wife. And she always said that she was okay with that, so I decided to let it go. But their attitude just got worse. And when our daughter was born, they didn't want to meet her. And I'm not gonna lie, that pissed me off because they were treating her like a stranger, just because they don't like her mom. So for a while I stopped texting them since I was always the one who contacted them. And I had no interest in contacting them again. But the other day my wife was crying, and I asked her what was going on. And she showed me some texts they sent her. She tried to contact them a few weeks ago so we could fix our relationship. And they just insulted her. They called her a cheap woman and told her that they will never meet that bastard, our daughter, because they hate our daughter as much as they hate my wife. I read the whole thing and was so mad that I called one of them, and we had a fight over those texts. I decided that he hates my wife because his mom told him I cheated on her with my wife, which is a lie because I didn't even know her at the time. So I got mad and told him that he was wrong, and that the cheater was his mother, and that if he didn't believe me, that I could show them the papers that I still have from the paternity test that we had to do, because she didn't even know who was the real father of our 9-year-old son, because she cheated for years. He was speechless and just hung up the call. And now I feel like maybe I went too far because I shouldn't have told him that. But I was mad because I love my daughter and my wife, and I don't want anyone to hurt them. She's the sweetest and kindest person I ever met in my life, and seeing her sad or crying breaks my heart, and that's why I reacted that way. Am I the a-hole for telling him that? Oh, hell no. Not the a-hole 1,000 times over. Your ex crossed a line that should never be crossed, and only to screw you over for no other reason than out of pure spite and or jealousy. You did the right thing to combat lies with the truth. Eventually the truth will win out, but it'll take time. Yeah, lying about the innocent party cheating completely nullifies the proverbial non-disclosure agreement about the guilty parties cheating. Talk about literally asking for it. Not the a-hole. This is why no plan should include keeping secrets from kids. They don't work. You and your wife have suffered their unjust wrath long enough. Time for their mom to have her fair share. Not the a-hole. You were just setting the story straight. Your ex, on the other hand, major a-hole for lying to them to make you look bad and ruining your relationship with your kids. Agreed. X is the a-hole here. Opie's ex lied to his children to make him look bad. His sons are adults now, and they deserve to be told the truth. Justified. Your ex-wife lied to your children, and it had serious negative consequences for your new family, so they needed to know the truth. Passing on the information in a calmer way would have been better, of course. Still not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting my wife's son to leave the house after he turns 18? My wife and I have been married for 5 years, and she has a 17-year-old son from a previous relationship. The father left her and her son about a decade ago, and has not been present in their lives ever since. I know it was a traumatic experience for both of them, and they have a very tight bond as a result. My wife is on permanent disability and doesn't work, so I am the sole breadwinner in the household. I've always tried to be a very present figure in my stepson's life, but I also understand that I am not his father. For the past 3 years or so, her son has been having a lot of behavioral issues. When it started, my wife and I thought it was typical teenager acting out type stuff. But when his behavior continued over the course of months and into a year, we knew we had to take more action. We attended family therapy, got him individual therapy and counseling, worked with his school counselor, tried getting him involved in extracurricular activities, etc. We put a lot of time, effort, and money into as many ideas as we could think of, hoping that something would click. But nothing has worked. His grades in school are near failing, and he is at risk of not graduating next year. He will refuse to leave his room for days at a time. He has zero respect for me as a person, let alone a parent figure. He fights us on attending therapy and counseling sessions, and will not participate when we get him there. I am at my wit's end, and I am also starting to feel the hurts financially because my insurance doesn't cover all of the therapy and counseling. My wife's disability checks take some of the edge off, but I'm hemorrhaging money at this point and failing behind on bills. My stepson turns 18 in a couple months, and I'm at a point where I want to stop paying for his therapy and counseling. I am also at a point where I no longer want him in my house at the end of next school year. After a recent outburst from him, I broke down to my wife and told her all of this. She wasn't aware of the financial problems because I don't want her to feel that her son is a burden on us. But as hard as it is to say it, he kind of is. Out of anger and frustration, I told my wife my feelings about wanting him to leave our house, and she flipped out on me. She accused me of giving up on him and basically being okay with him becoming homeless. She said she would never forgive me if I abandoned him like his father did, and that I was an a-hole for even thinking something like that, let alone telling her. It's been a huge rift between us since then, and it's put a huge damper on the holidays. A part of me wants to get this all out in the open since I think my stepson deserves to know what kind of strain this is putting on all of us. But my wife insists on being protective of him. I feel like no matter what, I am going to be the bad guy, but I also feel like I have done all that I can do. Am I the a-hole for wanting to quit supporting my stepson? Not the a-hole. You are doing everything you can to help your stepson. Unfortunately, you cannot help someone who doesn't want to be helped. While he is a minor and you have the authority to do so, have you considered inpatient help? I would suggest being honest with him. His behavior is unacceptable, and he either changes or leaves. You will pay for his therapy as long as he tries to help himself get better. This may cost you your marriage, but if you do not draw this line, you will be having the same conversation in 10 years. While he is a minor and you have the authority to do so, have you considered inpatient help? My wife outright refuses to even consider this. His therapist recommended it a little over a year ago, but my wife wouldn't even think of it. She then forced us to find a new therapist. That is denial, and all it's doing is enabling him. The shame of it is, he probably feels the most lost in all of this. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend she's reaping what she sowed? At the beginning of quarantine, my friend Bella, female 30, proposed open marriage to her husband Mike, male 28. The timing was off, obviously, but she had thought about it a lot and she said it was the only way for her relationship with Mike to survive, because she loved him dearly, but felt unfulfilled. Mike hesitantly agreed because he didn't want to lose her. When I asked him about it, he seemed very much not thrilled about the whole thing. Backstory here is that Bella and Mike have known each other since middle school, but only started dating in college, at which point Bella had a lot more experience in relationships. Mike has told me he's always felt like he was one step behind her in most things, but that their marriage really worked and he was very happy with her. Well, during quarantine, the two of them became even closer than they had ever been before. And I think Mike didn't expect Bella to actually go through with the open relationship idea she had proposed. But around 3 months ago, she brought it back up and then settled on some rules together. Cut forward to an hour ago. It's way past midnight here, when Bella calls me crying saying Mike cheated on her. I'm all question marks at that point because Mike would never. She tells me she tried calling Mike all day, but he said he had a date and hasn't come home yet. I ask her, but wasn't that sort of okay between you two? She sobbingly tells me that yes, that was sort of the deal, but that she hadn't been able to go on a single date with a guy yet because she was so busy with work being back on now, and that Mike just went ahead with his date as if she meant nothing. That he hadn't disclosed any details to her, which as far as I know is part of their deal, that they didn't want to know any details, and that she felt like he was ridiculing her. I didn't really know what to say. I just told her, well, honey, I think you just reaped what you sowed, honestly. She's furious with me and screamed at me for being an awful friend to her, that I should understand how she feels. I kept quiet, but honestly, I think she's just upset that her husband is doing what she proposed in the first place. I haven't talked to Mike yet, but am I the a-hole? Edit. Spoke with Mike just now. He said he had an awesome night, but came home to Bella screaming at him and is feeling incredibly guilty and confused now. Understandably, he'll come by after work to talk. Now for the top comments. Yeah, not the a-hole. People always seem to be down for open relationships, until they remember their partner can have an open relationship too. And it often seems that the partner who originally proposed the idea ends up striking out, while the hesitant partner hits the home run. I'm not sure that's necessarily true, but I do find that often when the hesitant one does succeed more than the suggester gets bent out of shape far worse than is reasonable. Not the a-hole. I'll bet money that what her friend was really thinking is that she'd convince her husband to try an open relationship, but he loved her too much to ever sleep with anyone else. She thought it would be a win-win for her. Her husband would be at home loving her, and she'd be out getting her back blown out, and it would all be legit because the husband agreed to an open marriage. Not the a-hole. She didn't expect him to actually sleep with other people. She just wanted to sleep with others without it being considered cheating. She's really ridiculous, and I'm on Mike's side for this one. She wanted an open relationship, so that's what she got. Lol. That's what most people want in an open relationship. The opportunity to sleep around with a fallback. Be careful what you ask for. You might well get it. Your friend felt unfulfilled and wanted someone to meet her needs. She never considered that in an open marriage. Both spouses are free to go elsewhere. She said he cheated, but he did no such thing. It isn't cheating in an open marriage. Your friend's reality check just bounced. Not the a-hole. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for walking out of a house after the host told me to feel free to leave because she doesn't like people in her house? This just happened like an hour ago. Backstory. Dating this guy and his best friend was having a small party, if you can call it that. There were 10 people there at most. I wasn't invited, but boyfriend told me it would be okay if I came. Usually I wouldn't go somewhere without an invite. But since this is his best friend's house, I assumed that he knew the situation better than me. I show up, go inside, meet the best friend, and she didn't know I was coming. Boyfriend says, "Hey, this is who I told you about. I wanted you guys to meet." The best friend turns to me with a straight face and says, "Yeah, it's alright I guess, but feel free to leave because I don't really like people in my house." So I left. I turned around and walked out without saying another word. Now, to be completely fair, my boyfriend was shocked. He came after me and said that he had no idea that she would react that way, but she was just having a bad night, and that we should go back in and everything will be okay. Obviously I left, and he didn't come with me. But now he is texting me and saying that while she was a bit rude, I was even more rude for just walking out in front of everyone, and that it made for a weird vibe with all of his other friends who were there. So am I the a-hole? Did I overreact? I should mention, there is a language barrier here. She speaks Greek/Italian as first languages, and I speak English. So honestly, her intent was questionable. But the look on her face gave me a weird vibe. Interesting conversation below. Does boyfriend have the right to invite someone into someone else's home? This is a tough one because it's sometimes yes, and sometimes no. I've done this before if the vibe was right. But mostly I don't do it. I would just ask first. So I kind of understand if he thought it was a situation where it would be okay, but turned out not to be okay. Conflicted. Not the a-hole. Your boyfriend plus his friend are. He didn't come with you when you left, and that's an a-hole move right there. P.S. Does she have the hots for your boyfriend, that's why she was rude to you? So you would leave, and she could do stuff with/to him? Nah, nothing going on between them. Incompatible genitalia preferences. Not the a-hole. And if I was dating him and he decided to return back to the party after that interaction, I wouldn't be dating him any longer. For him to put Opie in that position in the first place was bad enough, but then letting Opie walk out and leave alone? He really doubled down on a-hole with that move. As for BFF, English may not be her first language, but I think her message came across loud and clear. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. No. He did you wrong by sending you into a place you were not invited, had a host insult you, and then gets mad you leave? No, do not apologize. What the hell is he complaining about? He still stayed for the party while you ended up going home. Not the a-hole. That was a very reasonable reaction after being treated that way. Much more polite than I would have been. My only confusion is why you didn't immediately dump the boyfriend for going back into the party. And you're waiting until a bit later to do that for some reason. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We are in that weird, dating but not exactly exclusive stage, so there wouldn't even be a formal breakup. We just wouldn't see each other again, if that makes sense. For the next story, Am I the a-hole for calling my friend jealous and insecure? My friend Aisha, 22 female, has a history of going after our friend's old crushes / flings / boyfriends, etc. She went after my ex-boyfriend when we were 18, went after our friend's ex-boyfriend freshman year of college, etc. No one had ever said anything about it for one reason or another, because other than this, Aisha was a really good friend. She has never gone for a guy that no one else has gone for either, especially with me. She's gone after most of the guys I've talked to after we were done talking, and I didn't mind until now. Most of our friends used to like Jaden, my current boyfriend, 22 male. Aisha, along with 4 other girls, liked Jaden when we were 19, but he never entertained them. We were all in the same friend group, but Jaden and I never really talked until a few months ago when we ran into each other. He lost touch with a lot of people in the friend group and hadn't talked to Aisha in years. We ended up talking and now we're dating. When Aisha found out, she started texting Jaden and asking him to hang out. It got to the point where she'd complain to me about him not responding to her. I told Jaden I don't mind him hanging out with her to catch up, but that Aisha has a history of doing this kind of thing and catching feelings. So if he does see her, he should make it clear he isn't interested. They ended up never hanging out and Jaden doesn't respond to her texts. Aisha kept being persistent and texting him. She continued to complain to me about him not responding and eventually complained to all of our friends. It made everyone uncomfortable. I didn't say anything until the other day when she brought up how Jaden had said he would date her. Someone asked who he would date if he had to pick from the group of girls who liked him when we were 19. I decided her. I was there for it and I'm not bothered by it. I told Aisha he said if he had to pick from the girls who liked him, he would have picked you. Nothing else. He didn't and doesn't see you in that way. I told her it made me uncomfortable how she talked about Jaden and said, "You're acting like you had a crush on him. And whether or not you do, he's with me, and that's not going to change." Aisha told me I sounded jealous, and I said, "No, I'm annoyed." Jealous would imply you have something I don't, and believe me, that isn't the case. If you can't get a guy without him being with one of us first, that's on your own jealousy and insecurities. Stop trying to get with my boyfriend and everyone else's. It's not cute, and you're doing yourself a disservice. You can't go after our exes then complain about how you feel like you're a second choice. Aisha stopped talking to me after that. While all of our friends think it needed to be said, some think I crossed the line by insulting her and think I should have just said she was making us uncomfortable. Edit. Aisha's now been trying to claim she was just trying to catch up with Jaden since they used to be close friends, and that it took things the wrong way. She said she was just joking around and that it wasn't that serious. However, after some digging around, I found out that when Jaden and I started talking, she started asking around about him. A mutual friend told me that she was convinced Jaden liked her and was going to ask her out because she saw TikTok saying a guy with the letter J was going to come into her life, and that she should expect some romance. She also found out Jaden kept a painting she made for him for Secret Santa back during freshman year of college and saw it as a sign. I told Jaden all of this, and he has since thrown out the painting and blocked her and everything. Now for the comments. Not Dayhal and wow. No, I'm annoyed. Jealous would imply you have something I don't, and believe me, that isn't the case. If you can't get a guy without him being with one of us first, that's on your own jealousy and insecurities. Damn, girl. I couldn't have said that better myself. Good for you. Maybe your comments hurt her feelings, but sometimes that's necessary to get your point across. Some people don't respond to nice, and need to be told they're being an a-hole in order for them to realize it. She needed to hear this. On another note, why is anyone in your group asking your boyfriend to choose a second choice from the group? That's super inappropriate and irrelevant. It also bound to start trouble, which it did. You should ask your friends to steer clear of asking dumb and pointless questions like this. Not a-hole. Pointing out someone is insecure or jealous isn't insulting them. Unless more was said that you were leaving out. To be honest, I'm surprised OP's friend group hasn't said anything to Aisha about her behavior before now, especially with the whole going after the ex-boyfriends thing. All that's done is embolden her to now start going after actual boyfriends. Yikes. Definitely not a-hole. It needed to be said. Edited to Ed. Your boyfriend also needs to nip this in the bud and make it clear to Aisha that he has no intention of meeting with her alone, and that he's not interested in her. Not saying he's an a-hole, but he needs to set firm boundaries and slash or block her number if she keeps persisting. A couple of girls have come close to saying something, but it never bothered us too much since she'd usually do it once the relationship was already over. In most cases, the relationships ended because my friends and I were the ones who ended it, so while it was uncomfortable for us to see her go after our exes, it wasn't like we were heartbroken over them, so we'll let it go. She wouldn't get anywhere with our exes either. Usually they would seek her for comfort, but she'd complain about being second choice, then stop talking to them. Aisha also has a history of struggling with depression and anxiety, and we didn't want to do anything to worsen her mental health. We thought it was better to just let it go. She's never been like this where she's made a move while we were still together, so that's why I finally said something. Not today, Hal, and maybe consider dropping that friend because holy insecurity, Batman. She has zero place complaining about how your boyfriend isn't texting her back, much less to the entire group. I'm surprised you put up with it for that long. She needed that line boldly drawn, though. She wouldn't have stopped by just being told you made people uncomfortable. I honestly thought I was just jealous at first, until a few of our friends told me how it was weird and uncomfortable how much she was talking about my boyfriend. Once I realized how everyone else felt the same way as me, I realized it wasn't jealousy, just annoyance and anger at her disrespect for my relationship. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole? Wife wants a bigger ring after 5 years. Wife and I got engaged, and I paid cash for her engagement ring. I didn't have a set amount I wanted to spend, but got a ring just under 1 carat. The ring is beautiful, and I spent a long time on the details. It isn't huge, but she has a tiny hand, so it is actually really proportional. I was never thrilled about the idea of supporting the diamond industry, but I understand cultural symbolism and like shiny things myself. Now that we have more money, she wants to get a new engagement ring. Since we were more limited in funds a few years ago, her belief is that we should get her a ring more in line with what we can afford now, and it always ends in an argument. It kinda rubs me the wrong way, and she says I'm an a-hole about it because I'm making it out to be that she's materialistic, or only wants it for status, or even just to feel better about herself, which is still an issue in my mind. Her case is that she will wear it forever, until we change income brackets probably, and why shouldn't it be something nicer? Am I the a-hole for not wanting to do this, or pointing out that it is compensating/image related? It feels like she just thinks she can upgrade it away, and then she's wearing a ring that isn't even the one I gave her. And it isn't because she lost it or it was damaged, but just because she wants something better. Honestly, it grosses me out. And then I'm so put off, I kinda become an a-hole that feels unappreciated. Would something like an anniversary ring that won't replace the engagement ring meet everyone's needs? 5 years is a milestone. You could turn this into a piece of jewelry that's special in its own right. No a-holes here. I'm with you. Add to the band in the form of an anniversary band. If it were me, I'd want different stones like blue, green, or red, sapphire, or something, making it really special. Maybe something they designed together with a jeweler. Just a thought, but replacing the stones seems wrong somehow, as if it weren't good enough to represent who they were when they got engaged. More like representing their stages of life. Info. Was your wife involved in picking out the first ring? It's bound to be unpopular, but I think buying someone an engagement ring they are expected to wear for life without input isn't always a great idea. My husband proposed to me with a plain silver band with the word placeholder engraved on the inside because he knew he'd never be able to pick something my picky self would like. My husband proposed with a fake $20 ring, and there was a note in the ring box that said, P.S. The ring is fake, but my love for you is real. And then he gave me the budget and I designed my own ring. Perfect. Am I the a-hole for leaving my house and leaving my mother and 4 siblings homeless? I, female just turned 18 last week, live with my mother and 4 siblings. Ages ranged 5 to 12, all different fathers. I've had a part-time job since I was 14. I was forced to watch the kids from a young age because my mother was either working or pregnant. She has no education. works whatever job she can find, and, well, she's an ignorant woman who never learns that having more children than you can feed is a terrible decision. And yes, termination is legal here, so it was her decision to keep them. I'm the only one with a relationship with my father. He never wanted children, but he's responsible enough to pay child support. This money is the family main income, and my mother uses it to pay for rent and utilities, and like half the groceries. I have a good relationship with my father, so he also covers my medical and educational expenses. On my birthday, he told me he'd like to keep supporting me by paying for my university, and also asked if I'd be willing to live alone. He never liked the idea of my mother spending the money that was supposed to be only for me with all my siblings. I was delighted with the idea, as I've wanted to move out for a long time, as I hate my living situation and sharing with kids, and I don't get along with my siblings at all. When I told my mother I'm moving out, she saw red and called me an ungrateful brat. She tried to blame me for leaving them homeless. They'd be unable to pay rent by next month as my mother has no savings, and told me I should keep living with them because I should care about my siblings. I yelled at her that I've all lived off my father's money for 18 years, and that was enough. I don't want any contact with her anymore, and even less with those kids I don't even want to call my siblings. My friends are split about if I'm the a-hole. Some of them believe I should keep leeching off my father for the sake of my siblings, but honestly, I couldn't care less about them. I don't want to see my mother learn her lesson. And now for the top comments. That's an ugly situation. But no, not the a-hole. Your mom needs to be responsible and provide for her kids, not you. Her and the other fathers as well. Why the heck isn't she collecting child support for the other kids as well? Not to mention Opie's father is no longer required to give money now that Opie's an adult, but was still willing to. But also disgusted with his money being spent on the others as well. So if Opie stayed, they might still lose that money, which means the mom is in the same boat unless she gets Opie to give her all the money she makes from here on out. Not stay home. You are nothing more than a meal ticket and a source of babysitting. I'm a parent, and parents like your mother both enrage and disgust me. Honey, live your life for you. Leave and never look back. I would also make sure that she doesn't get contact information. The minute you start making real money, she'll show up with more kids. Let her hand out asking for you to support her life of stupidity. Congratulations on your freedom. Best of luck at school. This. Move out and cut all contact with those people. You do not owe them anything, and you do not have to keep toxic people in your life. Opie, what your mother is doing to you is called parentification. We see this a lot over r/child-free. It's what happens when idiot adults who should have never been allowed to breed refuse to learn their lesson. Instead of bucking up and taking responsibility for the children they created, the careless parent makes raising and safeguarding younger siblings the job of the oldest, and thus, theoretically, most mature/responsible. It is wrong, it is cruel, and it is child mistreatment. She freaked out because losing you would mean having to step up and be smart for a change. Without the designated pseudo-parent around, the real parent has no choice but to actually do their job. She made those kids, not you. She chose to keep them when options were available. She brought them into a life plagued by scarcity and hardship, mostly as a result of her own poor decisions. So those kids are her problem. Keeping them fed, clothed, and housed should be her burden to shoulder, not yours. Bottom line, not stay home. You're stuck in a quagmire, and it's doing everything it can to suck you down and crush you. If someone with a rope comes along and offers to pull you out, don't waste time worrying about the quicksand. The quicksand is not your concern. Say, yes please. Grab on with both hands, and don't look back. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my former stepmother that she has only herself to blame for me being my dad's favorite? I, 21 female, am technically an affair baby. More like a conceived through revenge baby. My dad, 56 male, married his high school sweetheart. My ex-stepmom, 56 female, because she was pregnant with a child that he thought was his, but was actually his former best friend's child. The second child was fathered by someone else. He raised my step-siblings, Amy, 36 female, and Ken, 33 male, thinking that they were his for years, until Ken got into an accident, exposing that it was impossible for Ken to have the blood type he did and be my dad's biological child. My dad was furious because he turned down a full ride to college to work 2 jobs because he felt like he needed to support his family. My stepmom begged for forgiveness and told him to think about how devastating the divorce would be to my step-siblings. For 3 weeks, my dad had disappeared without a trace, and no one could get a hold of him. The last thing he said to anyone was in a drunken voicemail that made people fear the worst. My dad was found, but in such a bad state that he had to be checked in, but refused contact with my stepmom and step-siblings while there. After a lot of pressure and begging, my dad agreed not to divorce my stepmom, but felt like he was owed something and decided that two could play at this game. And that's how it got here. After a DNA test, my dad was thrilled that I was around, and made sure that I knew I was loved and a priority to him. So much so that he kinda neglected the first two children he raised. I didn't understand it at the time, but Amy and Ken resented me a lot because I was his real child, not my words, and I always came before them. My dad would always excuse it with the fact that I was so young, but he would outright ignore them a lot. My stepmom didn't really like me either, so my dad finally followed through with a divorce. He ended up getting the house, and when he died, he left it to me along with some family jewelry, the bulk of his savings, investments, and making me the sole beneficiary of his life insurance. He left Ken and Amy each $20,000. Amy and Ken were hurt, but I wasn't going to let them take out their anger on me again and be pressured to share. They threatened to sue, but my dad's lawyer assured me that I was in the clear. My ex-stepmom called me upset and demanded that I share everything equally, saying that a father shouldn't play favorite. Fed up with her BS, I told her that, "Lady, if you want to be mad that my dad had a favorite, then you need to blame yourself for sleeping around." It felt good, but my aunt feels like I was too harsh. Am I the a-hole? Edited to Ed. Saw this in a comment, so I wanted to be clear. 1. Amy's dad, who was my dad's best friend growing up, is dead. He died when Amy was a toddler, and was even my dad's best man. 2. Ken was the result of a one-night stand with a stranger, so he's going to have to submit his DNA into 23andMe or something to find out his paternal side. 3. My mom is still very much alive, and my dad left her something too. 4. I recognize that Amy and Ken were in an awful situation. I just don't really empathize because of how they treated me growing up, so I don't even care to have a relationship with them. My aunt, dad's sister, is the only reason why I would still see them, because she still wants a relationship with them. Edited to Ed too. Keep seeing a few more common things, so let me clarify some other stuff. 1. No, my mom didn't know my dad was married until after she was pregnant with me, and was angry at him for the longest time. I didn't know about any of this until I was much older, and I think that's why my dad left her something in the will. 2. Yes, my dad did get a DNA for Amy and Ken. He's not their dad. 3. I didn't say what I did with Amy and Ken around. That was strictly between their mom and me. Unless I was on speakerphone and she didn't tell me. 4. No, my dad didn't pay for Amy and Ken's college expenses. He would still get them the occasional gift for birthdays and Christmas, but after they turned 18, he stopped because he wanted me to have as many resources as possible. Not the a-hole. Your stepmother reaps what she sowed. I do feel empathy for Amy and Ken, but fortunately your dad didn't cut them off completely, so they shouldn't expect anything more from your dad's estate. I say go no contact with all 3 of them, and go live your best life, Opie, as your dad would have wanted. Oh, trust me, I am. I have no reason to speak to my ex-stepmom, and I'll only ever see Amy and Ken around my aunt's house and she still wants a relationship. But other than that, I'm good. They weren't very nice when I was growing up. Oh man, all of that was toxic as hell from the beginning to the end. I feel really bad for Amy and Ken, who did nothing to warrant their father figure's neglect. You don't seem to have a lot of empathy for them either, and I really hope you reflect and try to see their perspective. You're not obliged to split things equally. Your dad left it to you. I do hope you take this opportunity to remove yourself from a toxic situation, reflect on it, and move on. Nothing about what happened was okay. Try not to let your father's battle become your own. Honestly, he is arguably worse than your stepmom, because his choices hurt 2 innocent children. She's no saint, but he should have just left right from the start. You, Ken, and Amy are not the a-hole. Lol, do you realize they took their anger out on Opie? Opie was innocent too. This was the fault of the woman who didn't want to divorce her husband when he asked for one over her own entitlement to a relationship. Opie's father might have hurt the kids had the parents got divorced, but not more than neglecting them for so long when the parents actually stayed in marriage. The ex-stepmom in this case cheated on her husband at least 2 times, failed to tell him that he was the biological father of kids, deceived him into raising someone else's kids for years, then when he eventually found out due to his supposed son's illness and spiraled, manipulated, begged, and guilted him into a marriage he clearly didn't want. and let her kids be miserable. How the hell do you excuse that? The man made his intentions of not staying in a relationship very clear, but the ex-stepmom pushed it till it broke spectacularly. I see that Opie's father might have acted like an a-hole, but he was put into this very glorious position time and time again. So, if we really analyze the whole situation, no one is the a-hole here except for stepmom, and in some parts the dad, who by the way still left $20,000 to both of those kids he resented. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not helping my biological parents? I, 22 female, was adopted by wonderful parents. I grew up as an only child and am very close with my adoptive mother and father. I have always wondered why my biological parents gave me up for adoption. I never asked and don't plan on it. But when I turned 18, my parents asked if I wanted to know who my biological parents were, and they told me their names and where they live. I looked them up in social media and contacted my biological mother. She was very happy to hear from me and asked if I wanted to meet. They lived about 4 hours away. I took the time off of work and drove the 4 hours. We hugged and they were very thrilled to meet me. I told them that I had finished up college and working as a hairdresser. They quickly changed the subject and asked if I could lend them around $2,000 to pay off some debt. I was speechless and asked if that was the main reason they wanted to meet. My dad said, kind of, yeah. We need help with some finances. I got up and left the diner. I drove the 4 hours back home and told my parents what happened. They were very supportive and let me know that they loved me. My biological mother has been blowing up my phone wanting to talk, along with some money requests. I've denied every one of them and told them I no longer want to talk to them. Then biological dad reached out and called me a horrible daughter for hurting my mother's feelings. I've not heard from them since the last message. Am I the a-hole for not helping my biological parents? Not stay home. You owe them nothing. Children should never be responsible for their parents' debt. They only wanted money, not to get to know you. The greatest thing they ever did for you is giving you up. Children should never be responsible for their parents' debt, especially considering these aren't even her parents. They are strangers asking for a handout. Definitely not stay home. Not stay home. Can you imagine growing up with them? You got lucky. And look at it from the even broader side. They immediately showed their true colors. They could have also first built a relationship and then tried to pull this off. They'd probably steal her paychecks if she got a job as a teen and be begging for money throughout her adult life. They only cared about her money, not her. Bullet dodged. Not stay home. Not stay home. They were horrible parents and you owe them nothing. Block their numbers and forget about them. I can guarantee if you've been homeless and penniless, they wouldn't have bothered with you. Oh, they would bother. They would ask her social security number and a couple of other questions. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to make my son apologize to my mother-in-law's goddaughter and undermining my husband's parenting? My mother-in-law's goddaughter, Amy, is not a nice person, but I'm the only one who seems to see it. So when I walked in on my 4-year-old son close to tears and being pressured by his dad to apologize to her for being rude, I immediately intervened. My son insisted Amy had said something mean to him, but she tried to make it look like my son misunderstood and was overreacting. From past experience, I knew she was lying. My husband kept insisting my son needed to apologize, but instead I told my son I believed him and that he didn't need to apologize. My son said, but Daddy said I have to, and I replied to tell him that he still didn't have to. I asked him to go pick a book for bedtime, even though my husband kept protesting and insisting he couldn't leave until he said sorry. After we put our son to bed, my husband had a huge argument with me. I kept saying I was undermining his parenting and teaching our son that he could get away with not listening to his dad. He insisted our son was being rude, and that was unacceptable, and that I was blinded by my dislike of Amy. I replied by telling him that he was the blind one. He also blamed me for our son asking if his dad didn't love him anymore. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Amy's 32. She told my son his dad would send him and me far away soon because he was annoying. My husband wasn't there when this happened. He interrupted them earlier while they were working to ask his dad to play with him, and Amy was upset that my husband actually did. I believe him, because when we first got married, she would say similar things to me. My son yelled that she was a liar, which is what my husband thought was rude. I'm sorry, but what the hell is a 32-year-old grown woman doing picking on a 4-year-old and reducing him to tears? And why is your husband allowing this? I'm going to say not the a-hole based on that alone. Like, Jesus, the kid is 4. If he says Amy's a liar and said something that he perceived to be mean, he's likely telling the truth. At that age, they don't usually make up malicious lies about adults. Exactly. He is a 4-year-old and didn't quite grasp that daddy was working. I don't agree with undermining the other parent, but I also don't think Opie was the a-hole. If I was her, I'd be asking her husband why he's okay with a 32-year-old being mean and disrespectful to a young kid and his wife. He is undermining both his wife and child but not standing up to the goddaughter for awful behavior towards them. I also just want to add quick that the husband thinks that his 4-year-old is bullying a 32-year-old woman? Not stay home. Sounds like Amy has a thing for your husband and doesn't like her time with him to be interrupted. Exactly. This is why she said similar things to Opie earlier in her relationship with her husband. I just hope there isn't an affair happening here. Amy is 32. Not stay home. It's important for a child to learn that an adult isn't always right and a child isn't always wrong. Also, Amy and your husband both sound like people who just want to watch your son do as they say. It's sad, but many people are that way. But she straight up told her child he didn't have to do what his dad said. She completely undermined his parenting and authority. How is that right? She could have took her husband to the side and settled it together, and decided if he should apologize. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdad it was never a competition when he asked why I chose to have just my dad walk me down the aisle? My parents divorced when I was 4. I was their youngest child at that point. My brother was 10 and my sister was 8. And 2 years later, our mom remarried. I believe my stepdad thought he would inherit at least one child to call his own out of the marriage, as my siblings were older and not too happy about our stepdad. Something about him they simply didn't like. With me, I had no issue with him going in, but he made everything such a competition. He wanted to do everything my dad did. Would ask to go instead of my dad to certain dad things, Father's Day events, father-kid sports stuff, etc. And when I said no, he would tell me I was hurting his feelings. My dad was bothered by the whole going instead of stuff, so he offered for him to come with us a time or two, but that promptly stopped when he tried to take my dad's place at some of those events. When I was 12, my mom was in the UK for a work thing, and I was at my dad's the whole time. I ended up getting sick, and my stepdad showed up a few hours in when my mom had contacted him after dad contacted her, and he had tried to tell my dad to leave so he could take over. I begged dad not to go and said I needed him, and the hurt my stepdad expressed to me/us was so deep. My dad told him not to put his feelings on me, and stepdad said I was big enough to understand that rejecting him as a dad hurt. It almost kicked off, but my dad just asked a nurse to remove my stepdad. Then he showed up 2 days later when I was still in the hospital and asked me if I would go to his and my mom's for him to take care of me. I said I didn't want to, and again he expressed I was breaking his heart, and why did I always choose my dad over him as he was my dad too. I told my mom about it, but she said it was a blessing to have 2 dads, and I should treat him more as a dad than as a step because he was trying his hardest. When I was 14, she really emphasized that with me, because they had suffered 2 miscarriages and a stillbirth, and she was no longer able to have kids after it. She said he only ever wanted to be a dad, and that he had always loved me, and it would be good for him to be loved back just as hard. Afterward, it was too much. I chose to live with my dad and just visit my mom and stepdad. And now it's been several more years. I'm 26, and he still tries to compete. He asked me directly the other night why I chose to ask my dad to walk me down the aisle at my wedding, getting married this November. And I told him because he's my dad. He started to interrupt, but I cut him off and told him to stop. That it was never a competition between them because my dad has always been and always will be my dad, and he was never going to win against him. He lost it and told me it was obviously a competition because he never got treated the same or loved the same. And it's a slap in the face because he is just as much my dad as my bi dad is. My mom is pissed at how I spoke to him too. Am I the a-hole? I touched on it in the post, but my dad on occasion did try to include stepdad in some stuff. He never came. And then it stopped when stepdad tried to push dad out of stuff so he could do it alone. Always Father's Day stuff too, or stuff relating to father-kid things. Now for the top comments. Not today, Hull. I'm a stepmom. I would never insist that any of my stepkids put me in a role they weren't comfortable with. They started referring to me in mom titles way before I did. Your dad is your dad. People who tried to take that over/guilt you for not denying that, especially when you had a fully present dad in your life, are terrible, and this is 100% on them. All the miscarriage shaming? Gross. All the telling you that you needed to treat this person who wasn't your dad like he was your dad? Gross. He doesn't get to take over for your bio dad because he doesn't have bio kids of his own. It makes me sad because the step-parent/step-kid relationship can be great. Meaningful and funny and heartfelt and frustrating and everything else all at once. But it can be that without trying to equate yourself to a parent. You aren't. Not today, Hull. He is being ridiculous, and your mother should have told him to wind his neck years ago. I often wonder if my mom hoped all three of us would fall in love with him and call him dad and choose to be a family with them over our dad. That might sound like I'm a really suspicious person, but she never took what I said about it seriously and always tried to encourage I see him as a dad. And I know she fought my siblings on their perceptions of him from the beginning. Next story. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my stepfather when he suggested that he could walk me down the aisle? So 2 weeks ago, I, 25 female, got married to my husband, 26 male. When I was 6 years old, my mom and dad got divorced. 3 years later, my mom met and married Fred, who had basically been my surrogate dad for all these years because my biological one hasn't been a huge part of my life. And Fred's kids, 20 male, 18 female, and 16 male, are basically my siblings. On last minute, my boy dad decided he didn't want to come to my wedding and walk me down the aisle. I got a call while I was getting my makeup done, and I was devastated, needless to say. Fred was in the room with me, and he started comforting me and telling me it would all be okay. And he said, if you want, I can walk you down. That just rubbed me wrong, and I was already a mess emotionally. Fred knew how much I wanted my boy dad to walk me down the aisle, and he just suggested it like it didn't matter at all, like I had just gotten my heart broken. So I just snapped and told him he was selfish, and told him to get out. Fred left, and one of my uncles ended up walking me down the aisle. My mom only heard about mine and Fred's fights after the wedding, and she's now pissed off at me, telling me that I overreacted, and that I needed to apologize to Fred, even though I was just frustrated and he had suggested something totally out of the left field. My mom told me that I was the selfish one apparently, and apparently I'm ungrateful. But I feel like his suggestion was completely wrong, and that I don't need to apologize. But I don't want to make things worse by not apologizing if I did do something wrong. So am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. You just said 1, your boy dad wasn't involved in your life. 2, your stepdad was your dad growing up. And 3, your stepdad didn't impose himself at all until your boy dad flat out rejected your request. Your stepdad was trying to be supportive and you rejected him. If he hadn't offered, would you have been happier? Stop projecting your anger at your boy dad at your stepdad. Yes, she got her hopes up about her boy dad and was let down again. She's the a-hole for reacting the way she did, taking her anger out on him, when it should have been directed at boy dad. I hate posts like this because it seems like the child at the post isn't seeing past the nose on their face. Opie's boy dad has been doing this and will continue to do this throughout her life. The sad thing is, she doesn't realize it won't stop with the wedding just like it didn't stop when she was a little girl. It will continue over and over again throughout her life, until she either A, goes no contact with him, or B, one of them passes on. The problem Opie doesn't see is that Fred is a human being with feelings as well. Opie snapping at him for only trying to help? Seems to me not the first or the last time she dumped on him when her boy dad left her high and dry. Eventually, Fred will stop playing the role of supportive dad and simply take himself out of the relationship, as there's only so much a person can take. From what I read, Opie's mom and stepdad had a conversation, and it seems like Fred has been snapped at one too many times. He was mature and didn't respond in the moment. My guess is that he talked to Opie's mom and was like, "That's it, I'm done trying. Every time I tried makeup for boy dad, I get yelled at and snapped at. So I'm not going to anymore. Opie, you need to apologize. You need to acknowledge everything Fred has done for you. You need to realize you never had to do those things, and you need to respect the man who stepped in when your own dad stepped out. And go no contact with your dad, or you're going to continue to be in the world of heartache. Yep. Opie will forever remember her wedding day as the day she lost 2 dads. Opie does not seem to be quite that self-aware. After all, she lives in a world where it's possible she is not the a-hole. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my future sister-in-law I am done discussing my parents not giving her money for her wedding? I am getting married next May, and my brother and his fiancée are getting married that August. My brother and I grew up very privileged, and our parents offered to pay for both of our weddings and lay out what they were willing to pay. I don't like getting into money, but it was extremely generous. I come from a big Cuban family with few boundaries, and everyone is in everyone's business, and I love it. So my brother and I both understood there would be some strings attached, and my mom would want to be heavily involved. I said yes, and my brother said he had to talk to his fiancée, Claire. Claire was not alright with my parents having a say in the wedding, and didn't want to set the precedent that my mom is going to have control over their lives. I totally respect her decision. She's a very independent, lone wolf type. And honestly, that is a personality I can't understand, but I don't judge. Claire and I get along great, and are both going to be bridesmaids in each other's weddings. As we began planning, Claire began to express frustration over planning a budget wedding, and I sympathized. Then she became obsessive about the topic of my parents and how they suck for not just giving us the money outright, and that my mom's a controlling witch. This really upset me, and we got into a fight, and then talking about how she hates our family and how everyone is enmeshed. I asked her to stop a couple of times. The American lifestyle with a big focus on independence has zero appeal to me, but I've never criticized anyone and keep my opinion to myself. Recently, we were hanging out with my oldest brother and sister-in-law. Parents paid for their wedding too. And my older brother said something about how he broke up with an ex once before his marriage, because she wasn't okay with the idea of multi-generation living together, and he would never marry someone who wouldn't let my parents move in someday. Claire got upset, don't really understand why, and started ranting about how my parents are entitled, how they won't give her money and ruin her wedding, and how me and my fiancé are cowards for taking their money. My older brother screamed at her and called her a bunch of names, which I don't think was right, and banned her from his house, but he is kind of a hothead. He then told my mom, and now my mom is threatening not to come. I don't want to be that extreme, but I sent Claire a text that I am 100% done talking about wedding budgets or my parents, and if she brings it up again, I will walk out. And if it keeps happening, I will drop out of her wedding. Claire now feels I'm not supporting her and being a bad bridesmaid. She said I'm being really selfish and invalidating her feelings. Now my brother is mad and feels I should try to help her navigate because I am normally the chill one in the family, but I'm sick of listening to it. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole, but you're pretty much the only one here who isn't. Claire needs to accept she can either have the money or total freedom to plan the event, but not both. Your older brother needs to not throw gas on the fire by tossing in his opinions about what relationships between married couples and the in-laws should look like. Maybe it was coincidence, but I have my doubts. And the groom-to-be needs to get clear on where he stands in all this, instead of looking to you to solve the problem for him. Agreed, but I don't think the parents are a-holes either. They clearly respected Claire's decision to not accept wedding funds. And now Claire is demonizing their entire family. Yep, I'm puzzled how Claire feels the parents are entitled. Their money, their culture. Deal with it. The parents respected her choice of control versus cash, and now she's angry? The only one who seems entitled in all this is Claire. Not the a-hole. I empathize with Claire's independence, as she drew many lines I would have drawn myself. I don't like people in my business, and would not live under the presumption that people could pop in/move in anytime they want. That being said, I live within my own means, and I don't accept anything from anyone that comes with clear strings. She is not entitled to your family's money, and she double does not get to disrespect your parents. Your brother might be a hothead, but I don't think he was entirely wrong for blowing up in this situation. I put independence in quotes because I don't think she's trying to be independent, so much as she's trying to have her cake and eat it too. Yep, don't try to have any say in what I do. I'm independent. But give me your money. Not the a-hole. Your parents can put whatever conditions they want on that money because it's their money. Claire needs to either get with it or get over it. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my grandpa to walk me down the aisle over my mom's husband? My dad died when I was 12. My parents were long since divorced, and my mom introduced me to her husband 2 days after my 13th birthday and married him 5 months later. I think my mom's husband was hoping I would see him as another parent and dad figure. But because of my age, I always saw him as my mom's husband. We get along fine, but he was never someone I looked to for dad stuff. That fell to my grandpa, my dad's dad. Even before my dad died, I was around my paternal grandparents a lot, and I looked to my grandpa as another dad figure. So when he got engaged last year, I asked my grandfather if he would walk me down the aisle. Not because I wanted something super traditional, but I was always a daddy's girl, and he was my favorite person when I was a kid, so he would have been by my side regardless. My fiancé and I decided we would walk together with one parent each beside us. So I chose my grandfather in place of my dad, and my fiancé chose his mom. I didn't really say anything because I didn't think I needed to. But when my mom's husband asked who was walking me and I told him my grandpa, he got really quiet for like an hour and then asked me why I chose my grandpa over him. My mom was there at that point and asked why I would ask a grandparent over a parent. I said I wanted my grandpa there to represent my dad, and because we had a very close, very important relationship. I said my mom and her husband would be walking together during the wedding. They said it wasn't enough, and that he should have been asked first as the true father figure. I told them my grandpa was more of a father figure to me and had a more influential role in my life, and that I was sorry if feelings were hurt, but my grandpa was who I wanted there. My mom's husband said I should have considered him more, and at least just walk with my fiancé if I wouldn't even ask him to be by my side. My mom told me she was disappointed in me, that it's not what my dad would have wanted. I told her I think this is exactly what my dad would have wanted, which she couldn't argue back with. It's been a while, and there's still tension there. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You are right, they are wrong. This one isn't complicated. Your day, so your way, not the a-hole. You also explained your choice in a reasonable way. I can understand why your mom's husband might feel disappointed, but that does not give him, or anyone else, the right to call on you on your choice. Not the a-hole. Good luck. Not the a-hole. Your wedding, your choice. Your stepfather is making your wedding about him at his hurt feelings. He was your mother's choice, not yours, and you are much closer to your paternal grandfather. Your stepfather is allowed to have his feelings on the issue, but that's where it ends. Him telling you that you should have considered him more and just walk with your fiancé crosses the line. You're doing what feels natural and best for you. Now your mother and stepfather need to respect your decision. You have done nothing wrong here. It's fine for him to ask, and fine for him to hope, and even fine for him to be disappointed. But by asking more questions, he is only going to hurt himself, since there's no non-hurtful answer of why you like someone else better than him. A lesson most of us learned in middle school. Not the a-hole. I really don't get all these step-parents who try to push their own agendas on unwilling stepchildren. Being treated with civility and respect is all you can demand, really. But then, if step-parents all behaved, we wouldn't have AITA.